John Smoltz is a Hall of Famer. Great career, has a World Series ring. He's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
But if John Smoltz could have one of the two, he could be a 2-time World Series MVP, 2 rings, and he's the MVP of both, but not be in the Hall of Fame, or the career he had where he has 1 World Series ring. He was not. I think it was Glavine was the MVP, and he is in the Hall of Fame.
I would take the Hall of Fame career, the 1 World Series title. Let's bring in John Smoltz, the Major League Baseball Network analyst. Right out of the gate, right off the plane, John, there's your question. How do you answer?
Yeah, that would be the Hall of Fame. If you'd have thrown about 4 rings in there, that'd have been more enticing. But 1 more ring is not enough to change the course of destiny.
How about this? 3-time World Series champ, 2-time World Series MVP, but no Hall of Fame, or your career that got you into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, now you're starting to. 3-time World Series champs sounds really, really good, and I could live with not going into the Hall of Fame when you start talking about 3 rings, 4 rings, stuff like that. That's what we should have had anyways. So glad you brought it up that we don't, and I only have 1.
That's all I wanted to talk to you about, John. Thanks. How do you feel about your bracket?
Well, it's done, but I'm gonna go back and look at it. I felt like the last 2 years I put too much pressure on Michigan State, so I'm gonna probably, just for the sake of being a fan, I'm not going to put that kind of pressure on them this year in the bracket. I know they can feel it when I like it this year. Last couple of years, I didn't like what I did. Kind of mailed it in, and it's time I get back to defending myself like I did early on in this bracket with you, where I was basically dominating. And
you were.
I need to get back to that.
You were the Zion Williamson of filling out brackets. You were that good, Joe. Yeah. You were.
Yeah, I remember that one year that I think I got just about everything right in the men's and the women's in that same year.
All right, why are we opening up the baseball season in Japan?
Because they can, and because they have an opportunity, much like, we opened up. I was part of the broadcast in Australia. That was an unbelievable experience for me personally. I know the teams, the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks, had to make the necessary adjustments. And same thing here. I've never been over to Japan. I hear everybody that talks about it says it's unbelievable. You just have to deal with the mental adjustment of playing 2 games and coming back to spring training and then getting ready to, get on with your season. So 2 West Coast teams, not as bad. And, internationally promoting the game. And we've had, you think about Ichiro and just the stars now that have come from abroad. It's been pretty impressive.
Yeah, but I could still play a spring training game or 2 games in Japan and still get the crowds that come out to see Ichiro. I don't think that anybody said, well, wait a minute, does this count or is this spring training, whether I'm going to come out and see this game? You know what, let's this is a game that still has issues here at home, and then we're going to try to, accommodate Japan. I understand global expansion and all of that, John, but you could have played 2 spring training games over there, made sure Ichiro got to play, and you would have accomplished the same thing, in my opinion, instead of, hey, go out there and it's opening day, and then come back and do some spring training, and then we'll have another opening day here. I don't like it.
Well, man, you can have that opinion. The good news is the teams that have been able to do that in the past, have gone on to the playoffs. So it's not going to interrupt them too much. And they're young, they're strong, obviously, and everything will be fine.
Yeah,
it'll work out.
Right.
It'll work out.
All right. Mike Trout is rich. Now I wonder, whose contract future would you rather have, Aaron Judge or Mookie Betts?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, in the past, you'd always say the Yankee and their ability to always pony up a little bit more. But now with those 2 dynamic players, Mookie Betts, people have asked me this question: if you had to draft the two, who would you draft? And I said, it depends where I'm drafting him to. In other words, if it's going to be in Fenway Park, Mookie Betts is more important at Fenway Park than, let's say, Aaron Judge. But Aaron Judge is more important in Yankee Stadium. I mean, Mookie does things that most center fielders would love to do, and he's playing that unique right field. So it's going to be fun to watch these two, and hopefully they stay healthy, because Judge is just he's a freak at his size, and Mookie's a freak at his size.
But John, why wouldn't you want Aaron Judge with a green monster?
Well, no, I'm just talking about the combo of defense and offense. They both bring unique skill sets. But I agree with you. I mean, what Judge does at Yankee Stadium, I think it's like 1/3 of his fly balls are home runs. Some crazy number. It's crazy. And so to go to right field and just miss a ball is a home run for Judge in Yankee Stadium. And other people, not as much. Whereas Fenway, going to right field and right center, I mean, nothing's going to hold Aaron Judge. But the defensive component that Mookie Betts brings to that part of the field is unique, and he covers so much that defensively, I don't know, and as Judge is a great defender, I don't know that would be the same in Fenway Park. It's a great question, great debate, and they're both going to be smiling one day when they're able to sign extensions or free agent contract.
Talking to John Smoltz, Major League Baseball Network analyst, a one-time World Series winner, and
one time.
What was that?
Just one time.
Yeah, but you did one. You did win one. I mean,
I know. It's been long a time that I'm over it. I'm over it, Dan. I'm over it. So you just brought it back up.
One is so much better than none.
It is.
Okay. When do you start to get concerned if you're the Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw? When you start to have some kind of symptoms, issues to start the season?
Yeah, not so much because you realize the resources they have to cover. The Dodgers are in a great position, much like the Yankees with some of their injuries to their pitchers. They're in a position to withstand that kind of delay, and I don't think it's a big delay. Look, Clayton Kershaw is, I'm sure, want to continue the way he's always gone about it, but he knows he's going to have to adjust accordingly into the workload that he has so admirably done for the Dodgers over the course of his career. Make some adjustments mentally, allow pride to not be. That's the hardest thing when you're on top of your game and you want to be the guy. That is the hardest transition. Is listening to your team, willingness to adjust and take care of. Instead of 220 innings, now 210, then 200, and then eventually maybe 180, 190. That's what I think they're going to want to have happen so that he is at his best at the end of the year. The start of the season, every player wants to make the start of the season, but when you get to this point in your career, it's not the end of the deal when you're delayed a few weeks.
By the way, we had Greg Maddux on the show. We finally got Maddux on the show. That was a couple of weeks ago. And
wow.
Well, he wasn't sharing stories. You know how Maddux is, that he's the silent assassin, and he's always, downplays everything. And then, I think he knew that we had some stories that were told on this show about him, and he wasn't willing to acknowledge those.
Yeah, his memory's not really good these days, but it's his memory wasn't good back in the day either. So.
Oh, it'll be in the book that's never written about Greg Maddux, right?
Correct. Yes, he is by far. I mean, I know the commercials, the Dos Equis, the most interesting man in the world, but that belongs to Greg. He is the most interesting man in the world.
Were you there? Oh, no, you weren't, because he was on the Cubs at the time when he had the issue on the mound.
Yeah, that was with the Cubs and Mark Grace. But But
how would you describe that condition that Maddox had on the mound that day?
It was not a lot of sleep. You know, he just didn't have a lot of sleep. I think he was one of these guys that he could. I'll tell you what he really could do is he could divert the attention from whatever he wanted it to be. Honestly, he could.
He did it. He diverted it to his groin.
He did, and he would divert any attention being brought on him one way or another. It was, honestly, as I look back, and it was brilliant on how he did it. I've told you, he gave terrible interviews, so people stopped interviewing him. He gave you no information. He's the greatest of our generation for what he did in pitching, and he wanted you to look over there. You know, just look over there. Don't look at what's going on over here.
Oh,
so he was kind of a magician.
Yes, he was. Trout doesn't want to be interviewed, but I don't think he goes to the extreme that Greg Maddux does.
No, and you know what? I want to say this. I have a lot of respect for Mike Trout being who he wants to be and not who the whole world wants him to be. And I think, you know, in this day and age where everyone wants, you know, to be the face of baseball, get out, do commercials. Hey, if the guy doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. He just happens to be the best player in our game, and he's being handsomely paid now. And I think everybody – that's the one thing about sports. It's definitely an easy answer when somebody says, who's the best player in baseball? Mike Trout.
Thank you, John, as always, and we'll look forward to your Celebrity Bracket Challenge.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.